Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this video lesson, we're going to start talking about yellow oxide. Now, some of you may have yellow ochre in your palette. Don't worry about it. You can use it the same way. Yellow ochre is made from a natural pigment, whereas yellow oxide is made from a synthetic iron oxide, but they're both interchangeable. It's been used for a gazillion years, and primarily what I've used it for is for landscapes and skin tones. But another common use of using yellow oxide, I'm gonna say yellow oxide, but it also means yellow ochre for sunflowers. So you can use for whatever you want. It's one of those yellowish red pigments. It's an earthy color. Depending on what brand you use. So if I'm using the Decor Traditions, it's opaque, where the Decor Media Fluid Acrylics is semi-transparent. I've also included transparent yellow iron oxide, which is one of my favorites because I want to do a value string on that as well. So I've got the two yellow oxides, I've got the two transparent yellow iron oxides, and I've got the opaque titanium white from Traditions and the titanium white from the fluid acrylics because I want it to be consistent, because the fluid acrylics are more fluid. So it's going to be a very, very simple chart. Working with the yellow oxides here and the transparent yellow iron oxides here. But I'm also going to do a little demo for you on transparency and how you can use it to age paper. Sounds like a lot. It won't be a lot. It won't be too bad. So we always start with the pure pigment at the top, and then we add white. Now what you have to be careful with yellow oxide is because it's so light, you could easily kill it. So we want to add our white very slowly. So I'm going to work first up here. I'm going to go slightly over the line just so you can see this transparency. Although it is opaque, these lines are very, very strong. You can see it's once it dries, it won't be as visible. And then from here, I'm going to take the opaque titanium white. I'm just going to mix it here. So you can see that it can get killed so easily by adding too much white. Now, can you tell how easy this would be to use for skin tones? Bit more white. And we'll go down here. So if you've been following the series, you know that we're just going to make a value string of all the colors. This is how you see the true underlying color. And you may also have in your palette some type of red oxide, brown oxide, all these things. And the old masters used yellow ochre, because back then it was yellow ochre. They've used it for so many things, and again, primarily the landscapes and portraits. When we get to, I think it's looking at my notes, when we get to, I think, lesson 5 of yellow oxide, we're going to cover off a really, not so much an advanced color mixing exercise, but you're going to be able to see how versatile this pigment is. Okay, so that's that one. So now I'm going to repeat the same exercise with the Decor Media Fluid Acrylics yellow oxide, the Traditions transparent yellow iron oxide, and this one. So I'm going to speed up the video on this one because it's the same exercise, but when we get to this one, I'm going to do it in real time. So you can see that it went white a lot faster than this because the fluid acrylic ones already has more moisture in it. I'll call it water. I don't know what the actual formula is to make the paint, but I'll call it water. So it's already more of a transparent, which means the titanium white is going to overpower much faster. So now going over the transparent yellow iron oxide, let's see this one here. So I'm going to go over the line so you can see it is much more transparent, but you'll also notice it seems to be a little bit more intense, not a little bit, a lot more intense. So now I'm going to have to make sure I picked up the wrong paint last time, so I'm going to make sure I pick up this one here now. Mix it on the side. You can't see what I'm doing. I'm just mixing it over there. Let's get a little bit closer here. There we go. So if you think of it being more transparent, let me just pick up a little bit more here. Go a little bit further. If it's a little bit more transparent, you will also see that the white will also overpower it because the white is opaque. But can you also see how it would make some nice skin tones? There is a, I'm trying to remember where I saw it, what website it was at, that with the old masters, if they could pick one yellow, it would be this one. Well, depending if a lot of the old masters were just landscape painters, that would make sense. Same thing as portraits, depending on the skin tones that they were painting. Not quite enough white there. That would be a natural color. Okay. And then we're going to do the same string with this one here. I'll speed this one up, and then we're going to do a transparency exercise. All right, there we go. So you can see that these ones here, which are more opaque, how they seem to be a little bit, I would say stronger in opacity, but it looks like they're stronger in intensity. With these ones here, because they're transparent, the white of the paper is showing through, which is sort of naturally lighting them as well. So when you're using this one here over an existing color, that existing color is going to shine through. You're going to have optical color mixing. So you're going to have this color changing what it looks like when layering it on top of something else. So what's the best way of doing this? Okay, let me grab. So I've got this old newspaper. The newspaper itself isn't old. It's the stories inside are old stories from Hamilton. And I like using transparent yellow iron oxide to actually change the color of the paper. So if I find a story that's not so... Ooh. What's this one? See, look at that. So if you think of, you know, using something like that, works pretty nice too. With this one here, if I wanted to use this on top of that, I would lose the photograph. You'd have to use something purely transparent. So what do? You can use water or medium, and we're going to be covering that in another lesson. What I want to do is just show you an exercise on adjusting text. I'm trying to find something with politics, which does not interest me at all. Isn't that mean? Oh, let's do this one. Sorry, I should have prepared this before. Oh, I like that story. Where did it go? 1946, 1942. I saw something more recent. Where did it go? Let's just use this one. This is from 2007, not old, so I don't mind covering this up. So I'm going to take transparent yellow iron oxide, and let's put it over here. Now just to show you, using it pure, the black text still shows through. That's really, really bright though to, you know, just a tin paper. So what I like to do is I like to add a lot of water. Now we're using this as a background, so don't worry too much about worrying if it's going to weaken the strength of the pigment. And you just wait for that to dry. You can see how much lighter it is. So to strengthen the pigment, if you add too much water, it does break down the strength. What you can do is you can use a matte medium. for that. And so you can use like a Decor matte medium. Just rinse my brush. And I'm going to take a little bit here and some there. Now for this, you'd have to wait for it to dry just so you can see what it looks like. But it also will protect the paper. And if you wanted it glossy, use the heavy gloss medium. There we go. Here we are. You can see it's a little bit brighter than that, but look how nice that is for color. So that's that one. Now if I did the same thing with yellow ochre, let's use, well, let's stick with the same one. Or yellow oxide, I should say. If we use yellow oxide, look at that. Okay. But if we turned around and used medium, roughly the same amount, can we make it a bit more transparent? We're going to talk about this in another lesson as well. Let's go over here. So it is, water just dripped down. So it is more transparent, but you can see it's not as bright. So it's a really nice pigment used, especially for mixed media. I love for mixed media, by using transparent yellow iron oxide over yellow oxide. So do you need to have both? Doesn't hurt. Let's put this away. In a future lesson, we're going to talk about either buying or DIYing. But if you do a lot of mixed media where you want to layer, if you do stuff for like for steampunk and that, I would suggest picking up some transparent yellow iron oxide, or waiting until we do the lesson for the DIY versus buy to see maybe if you want to prefer, you know, mixing it yourself. But I mean, it's not an expensive pigment and it does make such a nice color. So that's that. So although a very simple lesson, it's important to understand the properties of the opacity versus the transparency, and then the vibrancy when it comes to using the same pigment, PY42, the same pigment over white paper when it's opaque or semi-transparent, how that adjusts the actual end color. And you saw that with the newspaper example as well. So your homework assignment is going to be creating a color string with whatever yellow oxide, yellow ochre you have in your palette. If you don't have it, it's something you know, if you're painting portraits or painting landscapes, it's something you really should pick up. We are going to do a lesson, an upcoming lesson on color mixing your own, but we have to get through some other colors first before we even get to that. So that's that. And your pop quiz question is going to be, what's the difference between yellow oxide and yellow ochre? That's your pop quiz question. Alrighty, so I'm going to clean up a little bit and going to prepare for the next lesson, which is shifting the color on the color wheel. And until I see you then, stay inspired.